What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should buy or lease your ATMs. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are a new subscriber, I want to welcome you to the channel, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. I just want to make this disclaimer once again. If you are on my other channel, if you're watching this video on my other channel that has a lot more subscribers, make sure that you click the link that I'm going to leave in the description so that you can subscribe to my new channel. Eventually, I'm going to stop posting on this bigger channel, and we're transitioning over to this new channel. All right. So with that being said, I want to jump into this. I want to make a real quick video that is kind of going over whether or not you can actually rent or buy an ATM. And a lot of people haven't covered this, but I'm going to do it here today. So you guys are in for a treat here, and I'm going to answer this question for you. And the answer is yes, you can rent an ATM. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but you really can't do it. It's actually done in a similar fashion as renting or taking out a lease on a car. And you do need to be aware that there are going to be some stipulations on that, depending on how exactly you go about leasing the ATM, the company that you use, and a bunch of other factors. But overall, understand that just like leasing a car, you are going to be subject to that interest, right? So you're going to be paying more money over time than you would had you actually just went and bought the ATM outright. All right. So with that being said, and with that question answered, let's move forward. So the pros of leasing. So I'm gonna read this here. Lower upfront cost. Renting or leasing an ATM requires a very small upfront investment. It's a popular option among businesses that don't have thousands of dollars to shell out at once, right? So basically what we mean by the lower upfront cost is renting an ATM, you're going to spend usually about $50 to $120 a month. That's basically going to be your leasing payment, right? It can be a little bit higher than that, but for the most part, you're going to pay between $50 and $120 monthly for the ATM, which is really nothing in terms of how much the ATM actually costs. So, at the very beginning, if you're a new person and you just kind of want to get your feet wet, this is actually a good way to do that. All right. And there's no long-term commitment. And just like I said, this is a good way to test drive your ATM so you can see if you actually want to be a part of this business, right? A lot of people say that you have to just go and buy your ATM outright, or go on Amazon, eBay, or whatever little weird things that people are telling you guys that you need to do. But realistically, you can just go and lease an ATM and test it out and see if you like it. And in that regard, it's good to do that, especially if you know you're a fickle person. If you know that you might give up on it, or if you just feel like you may or may not feel comfortable doing it, it's good to lease the ATM first and see if you like it. And then if things don't go well and you feel like, hey, I don't think I want to do this, then it's better to have come to that conclusion knowing that you only spend $50 to $100 as opposed to spending $1,600 to $3,000 and then be out of all of that money, basically. Okay, so in that regard, leasing an ATM is actually a pretty cool option that a lot of people really just don't know about. Now, the cons of leasing. So here we have the higher long-term costs. In the long term, leasing is almost always more expensive than buying. Many business owners don't realize this because the cost is spread out over many months. Now, this really isn't, the end of the world, because just like when you buy a car, a house, or anything like that, we all should understand at this point that we're going to spend more money in the long term. And in the long run, we're going to end up paying back the company that we're leasing from more money than what we are actually borrowing, right? But again, a lot of people who kind of view the ATM business as I guess you could say a game, for lack of a better word. They just kind of look at it like, well, I had this ATM, I pay $120 a month, everything's good. But then they, at the end of the day, once it's all said and done, if they lease all the way up until they decide to own it, they would have paid, an extreme amount of money depending on what the contract details were. So it's really something to think about. And obviously, one of the biggest drawbacks of leasing an ATM is a lack of ownership. So when you know that the machine isn't yours, don't expect total control over things like where it's placed, how often it's serviced, and the price of the surcharge. In some cases, the leasing company makes these decisions for you. Again, be sure to read the lease agreement in advance to find out. Now, I want to talk about the surcharge so that people understand what that is. The surcharge is actually whatever the price is that you have to pay for the convenience of using the ATM. It's usually called the convenience fee as opposed to the surcharge. Depending on where you at, I know where I'm at, we all just call it the convenience fee. So for the most, to kind of go deeper in there, if you want to go to an ATM and then you want to take out $20, it's going to say, hey, we're going to charge you $3 to $4 for a convenience fee. So that means that your account is going to be debited like $23 to $24, right? So we usually are in charge of how much that surcharge, that convenience fee is. Usually when we are going the traditional route and we are buying our ATM, but when we are leasing, we might not have that option. When we're leasing, we might actually be in a position where they're going to choose what the surcharge is. And that's kind of also going to go in hand in hand, depending on where exactly it is that you're placing your ATM. And that's because at some points and in some contracts, depending on, like I say, who you use, they might want to choose a better area than where you originally wanted to choose. Like you might say, hey, I want to use this barbershop, and they might say, nah, we know that, more foot traffic is going to go to the business next door, so that's where we're going to put it. And in some cases, you don't have a say so in that, so they'll just do that, right? And they'll choose what that surcharge is, because if they see that a certain company or a certain not company but a certain business has a certain amount of foot traffic, they might say, well, we're going to actually just take more we're going to take profits from that surcharge whenever you make a transaction, as opposed to the actual lease itself, because that might be greater. So if your max would be 120 per month for leasing the ATM, they might say, well, we can just scratch that and we'll just take a percentage of whatever your profit is from that surcharge from those transactions. But obviously all this stuff is going to be negotiated in the terms of the contract, but it's definitely something that you should consider, and something that you should think about. Another big thing is, don't look at the small picture, look at the big picture when it comes to leasing your ATM, because there can be some associated fees that go along with this, such as sometimes they well obviously they're going to want you to pay for the installation. That could be anywhere from $200 to $500 or something like that, and that's okay. I mean, that makes sense, because you shouldn't have that much of a problem with that, because you do need the ATM to get installed and you want it done correctly, so that shouldn't be a problem. But now we kind of move into some of the fees that you would probably ignore if you were to buy it outright, or you would find a cheaper cost, such as having a professional company come and put your money in your ATM for you. If you are leasing an ATM, depending on the situation and the contract, they may want you to use a particular professional company that does this, as opposed to you doing it yourself, or you hiring someone like your friend or your family to do it for you, which is usually what we would do. Because we want this to be passive, right? So we're actually going to have other people put our money into our ATM for us. But using a professional company that specifies in this, we don't want, like, if they specialize in this, we don't want to use them because they're going to be expensive. But in the lease agreement, we might have to, right? And also, we'll have to use a special type of paper for our receipt paper, and that could be anywhere from $50 up. And they may require us to use a specific type of paper for our receipts. And then also, in certain circumstances, they may want us to use armored trucks to deliver the money to the ATM. Um, I mean, there's a lot of different charges that could come into play just because the company that is leasing the ATM is basically protecting their investment. So if something, they don't want anything to happen to their ATM, so sometimes they may give you a list of things that you will want to do in order to keep the lease agreement active and also to keep their ATM safe. Um, what else? And there's another thing. Some, like I said, keep in mind all of this stuff can be negotiated in a contract. The things that I'm mentioning are just some of the things that I know I've experienced and some of the conversations that I've had when I actually leased one of my first ATMs. So I've only done it with one of them. I haven't done it since, but I did do that in order to kind of get my feet wet. When like I told you guys before, when my buddy mentioned it, and we put, we kind of pulled our money together for it. Um, you know, we bought one, and then we leased another one just in case, we decided we didn't want to do it. We could kind of cut our losses, right? But like I say, leasing is a good thing for newbies. If you're new and you are interested in it, this is a really, really cost-effective way to do it. But you do kind of need to understand what it is that you want out of the ATM business when you get in contact with these people, so that you can explain, hey, I want to choose the location. I want to choose whether or not how we put the money in, and you want to make sure you are upfront with the company that you talk to when you first get in contact with them. Okay. So owning your ATM pros, obviously ownership. You'll have full control of how the ATM is operated. You say where it goes, how often it's filled with cash, and how much to charge. And that's really the best part about owning your ATM, is you get to do whatever you want to. The whole purpose is to be your own boss, and you make your own calls, right? So you get to choose what your surcharge is. It can be anywhere from $2.50 to $10, but obviously you won't want to charge $10 because your foot traffic will be significantly lower, and obviously you're going to lose out on profits. In some cases, I've been to amusement parks like Cedar Point or zoos, big events like that. If you can get a big venue like that, you could potentially charge more, because I've been to the zoo and they'll charge. I've seen crazy numbers. I've seen all the way up to $6 as far as a convenience fee. And quite frankly, it's a pain. I don't like it, but you can do it. And if you are in not a convenience store, but if you are in a big event like a festival or an amusement park or a zoo or something, you're basically trapped in there like an animal, and you know that you need that cash, and they know that too. The banks that own these ATMs know it, so they'll charge you a crazy amount for the convenience fee, and you'll pay it regardless of if you are happy about it or not, because you're in a situation where you need that cash desperately. So in situations like that, you can actually charge a little bit more and people will pay it. But again, it's all about location. So another pro is your long-term costs. You'll save money in the long run buying your ATM outright. Because if you're leasing, you're going to be paying a lot more than what it is that you normally would have had you just made the purchase up front. But the great thing is you immediately have 100% access to your ATM, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can put it wherever you want. You can charge whatever you want, and you have that peace of mind that you didn't overpay for it because you went on ahead and put that initial upfront investment in. So owning your ATM cons: upfront costs. you'll need to be in a good financial position to shell out the amount of cash needed to purchase an ATM outright, because the machines can be expensive. And again, just like anything else, the more barriers to entry, the better. Because of the upfront costs, a lot of people won't get into this business, and that's good for you because you have less people to compete with. This is not like Amazon where you got a million other people that you're competing with. You're not competing with anybody. Once you find a uh, business that is in need of an ATM, that's pretty much it. You really don't have any competition. The chances of someone else coming to your business that you have your ATM at and they say, "Oh, well, we have a better deal for you." I mean, the chances of that happening is going to be extremely low. And these bigger name companies are going to have, um, their contracts are not going to be in the best interest of the business that your ATM is at, because you being a local, smaller business, you're not going to charge them an arm and a leg, because realistically, your ATM is going to cost, they'll pay $6,000-7,000 for, for your any business is going to pay around that much to actually acquire an ATM. So them having a contract with you and they don't pay anything is beneficial to them, right? But so you can look at owning your ATM as a double-edged sword. So it's not the end of the world, but it just really depends on what exactly is your financial situation. And probably the worst thing about owning your ATM, and this is really one of the only ones really, is when you own the machine, you're on the hook for repairs if anything goes wrong. So you need to kind of keep in mind for maintenance. You need to have a couple $100 laying around for maintenance. ATMs don't really shut down or have that many problems often. But when it does, it's really going to cut into your profits and it's going to just cause you a problem, when you're dealing with and talking to your business, because they don't understand how ATMs work. So as soon as they see that there's an issue, they're going to completely freak out, and then they're going to, come down on you. So you wouldn't be able to have the funds to actually jump in and fix your ATM as soon as possible, right? So it's just something to think about. I wanted to put this a little small, presentation together for you guys so that you guys can be aware that you actually can jump in with 50 to 150 to about 50 to 150 dollars, and you can actually rent out your ATM to just kind of test it and see whether or not you like it, which I think is good because you can't do that in a lot of other um, not e-commerce, but in other passive income forms, right? Because most of the time you need to be able to shell out a bunch of money up front, but in this business you can actually put down a small investment and see if you like it, right? But overall, in my personal opinion, I would suggest that you purchase your ATM, because that kind of gets you hands-on, so you don't have to rely on other people, and you can kind of learn from trial and error what needs to be done in order to have a successful ATM business, right? But the video was kind of long, but I did want to go over all of this information. So real quick, like I said, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so that whenever I drop another video, you guys will be notified about it. And also, again, if you're watching this video on my bigger channel with one with more subscribers, please go down to the description, click the link, and it should take you to my new YouTube page, and I want you guys to subscribe to that page, because eventually I'm going to delete the other one with more subscribers, because I'm transitioning over to this new channel. So I don't want you guys to miss out on anything that I post. If this was kind of helpful, and if you guys are interested in learning more about having an ATM business, show this video some love, like and subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Whatever you gotta do, comment. I'll try to answer as many comments as I can as I see them. But with that all being said, until next time, I will talk to you guys later.